Hi there and welcome to Planet Zoo. I'm 20 hours into my sandbox game and I've yet to place an animal enclosure. I've been too busy laying out the groundwork for my zoo. So today I'm going to show you around the manor house of my country estate zoo that I'm building. Before I do that though, I thought it important to mention if my voice sounds a little bit off today, that's because I was out late last night at a family party and my voice is a little broken from all the shouting I had to do over the loud music. I don't go out very often, so my voice is really suffering from that today. I mean, I could have taken a day off just to recover my voice, but honestly, I wanted to crack on because I'm so excited to show you guys where I'm up to with this build. So anyway, I'm theming my zoo in the style of a traditional British zoo, so it has a history. I talked a bit about the real life history of these types of places in my last video, so I won't bore you with all those details again. In a nutshell, a lot of real country estates across the UK were bought from nobility during the 19th and 20th century, and they were turned into tourist attractions such as the theme parks and zoos we see today. I want my zoo to accurately reflect this type of establishment with a lot of eclectic architecture spanning the history of such a place. So, I came up with a name for this place. I'm going to call this Woodvale Zoological Gardens, and it's set in the fictional grounds of Woodvale Hall and Country Park. Its history is that of a country estate saved from disrepair by turning it into a zoological gardens during the early 20th century. The estate has built up from there to what it is today. You enter the park from the gatekeeper's lodge, where I've added this Woodvale sign. The typeface is a little bit too modern for my liking, but it's the only one we've got for now in the game, so I'm making do with it. So from this entrance, you take a walk down the main drive, and that leads you to the manor house, which is a focal point of the estate. I've based this on a real life building, Croxteth Hall, which is a grade 2 listed country estate in Liverpool. The original house, which is this section here, that was built in 1575 within the hunting forest of Croxteth. The hunting forest itself dates back to the 12th century. As it's shown here, it was significantly smaller back then. It was transformed to what it is now over time, with additional wings added at various stages. This back section here, this was the final structural piece added in 1902, and that completely closed the courtyard in. I do love how, in those days, nobody cared what you did with your building. The historical significance was not protected at all. You could basically do whatever you pleased with your property. You could add sections, you could knock down huge sections. You could do this in whatever architectural style you wanted to. Nowadays, with its listed status, buildings have to be maintained and preserved in their original state. Now, this is massively expensive to maintain, but it protects these type of properties' historical integrity. I've tried to replicate that, so I've made a big effort to show the development of the hall in my build. I've changed the brickwork between the older section and the newer additions. I mean, this section back here, this is a staff building that would have been added in the mid-20th century, so the style is much plainer than the rest of the buildings, and you can clearly see that there's a difference in the colour of the brick. The courtyards and the roof system, I replicated this from viewing the building on Google Earth. Now, this was a fantastic resource to get the building right. It allowed me to scrutinise all the nooks and crannies that you don't necessarily see from photographs, so all of the staff-only areas. The only section of the hall that I couldn't model accurately was this sunroom over on this side. The glass pieces provided in-game were far too large, and this would have been far too fiddly to figure out without it looking like a huge mess. So instead, I've kind of just swapped this to an outbuilding. I think it still fits in with the overall aesthetic pretty well. The courtyard in real life is also just full of junk. Mine is way too clean, but there aren't enough props in the game to get this looking more used. The classic prop pieces are very sparse. There's like a wheelbarrow and a couple of sacks, and that's it. I'd like to see some behind the scenes pieces in the game, so some staff props like skips, traffic cones, some metal fencing or something. Those sort of pieces would bring this section to life. For the gardens surrounding the hall, so far I've modelled some topiary gardens here, which I have to say I think they're looking very pretty. I've deliberately left some open space with the trees as well. The whole grounds here would have originally been part of a forest that was gradually cut down to make way for lawned areas, so I've tried to keep elements of the forest alive with little pockets of trees here and there, like you see in real life. It's a little bit more realistic that way. So, where to next? Well, if I pan out here, all these ugly scrolls that you can see with the terrain paint, these are mapping out how and where I want habitats to be, other buildings and guest areas as well. I've also marked out the route for a river here that I'll be adding at some stage. Right behind the main building here, I'll be adding a glass tropical house filled with, tropical plants and maybe an animal or two. Back here, I want to build a reptile house. I feel like the tropical and the reptile house are kind of two pieces that realistically would have been added to a zoo at first, when it first opened. Something else I want to add is a walled garden. Walled gardens are very popular in country estates. It was a place that they could wall in a bit of the land and it would give them the ability to grow plants that wouldn't necessarily grow there without the wall. It kind of makes its own little biome where the plants are protected from the elements. When I add this one, it's going to have to be somewhere near the main hall as well. I'll also be adding some small habitats that are going to be based on what would have been a working farm for the estate. These sorts of country estates would always have their own working farm so that they could get their own meat and milk and whatnot. There would have also been some hunting lodges dotted around the outskirts of the estate, so I'd like to add these in some of the more far-reaching spaces. I'll make it look like they've been converted into dining establishments or maybe restrooms around the park. Something else I want to do is add a couple of modern buildings. Now, developments far away from the main hall would likely get planning approval in real life as long as they don't impact the aesthetic of the historical buildings, so I'd like to add a few modern architectural structures in certain sections and that should help keep things interesting. Anyway, I hope you like where I'm taking this all so far. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, I would love to share this main hall on the Steam Workshop, but unfortunately there's too many pieces to blueprint it. There's a glitch in the game at the moment where it's not telling me how many pieces it actually is, it's just telling me that it's over the 4K limit and won't blueprint. I'm guessing it's sitting somewhere between maybe 5,000 and 6,000 pieces right now. Now, if they fix the glitch and it will tell me how many pieces it actually is, I may be able to reduce that and get it blueprinted at a future date. This would make a nice addition to my workshop collections. Anyway, that's it from me today. Join me next time for either the tropical house build or a reptile house build. Cheers for watching, bye for now.